So, welcome to the Power of the Journey podcast. My name is Abiodun Duni, and today with me as a guest is Sheyi Adeboye. And Sheyi is a fantastic individual. And so, maybe just going to share a big background around Sheyi. I sort of just came across Sheyi's post on LinkedIn, which I thought was very inspiring, and that led me to reach out to Sheyi and wanting to learn more about his story, and potentially even share this with the world. And I thought that for me was very interesting because I heard Shei's story, and I was just left in shock. I took so much learnings actually from discussing with Shei. I think it just changed a lot of things for me. And I thought to bring him here and let him share his story to the world. A couple of very interesting things since he shared the post. Actually, Shei is now a LinkedIn superstar. He has over 10,000 followers now on LinkedIn. He's got 4,000 plus followers since he shared the post, which I think, obviously that tells to, how much people were moved by the story. And, the same post where you call yourself the one eyed boy
Mhm.
got over, up to 500,000 impressions, which I think is significant. I tend to post on LinkedIn, but I haven't even come close to that. And really it speaks to the volume of how people are impacted by that story. And I think that you're very courageous to actually come forward to kind of share the story. I know we've talked about a couple of other things, but thank you so much for coming here. And
Nice.
feel free to really talk about, just introduce yourself, to everyone, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, thank you very much, Biodun. My name, as he said, is Oluwaseyi, but I go by the short form Sheyi, which is well, it's kind of like the power to do things. Actually, I just like it, Sheyi. Um, I'm currently working for Cargill, and I studied animal science and sustainability. I'm passionate about helping farmers achieve their farm goals, and if there's anything that they really want to like achieve on their farms, I work with farmers to actually just get that done. So that's more like with small scale, medium scales, and large scales farmers. But recently, I've been drawing more passion in sustainability. Like it's really so interesting for me to find that part of me. I was actually having a chat with a friend from my company, and then we discovered that we got talking, and I discovered that I got talking a lot more about sustainability, which I was like, okay, I'm gonna follow up with that, and it's really been so eye opening. Since then, I've been really networking with people, like talking more about that, and yeah, so I mean, I shared my story on LinkedIn because I felt like it was high time to share that story. It's something that I've held on to for a very long time. Like, I don't think I've really talking to quite a number of people about it before. Maybe just like two or three people. And even while growing up, I was working in a place, and the man really didn't know my story until after I kind of left the workplace, and it was just surprised, like the way I just always just keep things cool, sit down, just do my job, and then it's as if nothing ever happened to me before. Yeah, so I decided
Yeah.
to like comfort, like just share a little bit about the story on LinkedIn, because
Hmm.
if I had to write the whole story, it's like LinkedIn is not gonna be able to take it. So I
No, no.
I wrote it down, and then I had to like cut it, summarize it. I guess my skills from high school, where we do summary, writing summary, actually came to place at that
Nice,
point.
nice.
Yeah.
Nice, beautiful, and so just so that we just really take it on from where it started from actually, and you called yourself, the one-eyed boy in the story, and so
Mhm.
I want you to take us through that journey where, before the incident happened, what was that like, and then we can just kind of walk through, up until where we are today.
Yeah, the one eye story started from my primary school. I was 6 years old, and we were in class with some of my colleagues, like, some of my classmates rather, and like we always play during lunch break. Just we sometimes we throw things to ourselves and just play. So, but this particular time, this there was this boy in my class. He threw this particular stick, so it's a broom, the kind of broom that is being used in Nigeria, actually, like in most homes. that is made from palm leaves. So it kind of just threw a piece to me, and that piece, well, I'm not really good at catching things, anyways. So maybe if I were to be good, maybe I would have been able to catch that and be a goalkeeper today. But that's story for another day. So I wasn't that good at that anyway. So I missed that, and it got into my left eye. It didn't just get into my left eye. It was as if it was targeted. It went into the iris straight up. Like I couldn't actually just. I didn't feel so good. Like, well, in a way, I thought I removed it, but I still felt like there was something really still pinching me in the eye. Like I couldn't get over the pain at some point. I think I went home and I was kind of scared of what my mom was gonna say because she has always been warning, like, be careful, don't play too much and all of that. So I really didn't say much, but my eyes were red anyways at that point. So my mom was just wondering what was wrong with me. I think why she was checking me out, like what's wrong and all of that, why are your eyes red and all of that. I kind of just passed out at that point because that was the only thing the last thing I could remember was her questioning me, and that was it for me. The next time I would open my eyes, I was already in the hospital, and no, there was rushing around and all of that. My mom was like, I mean, the whole thing was I saw my grandmother there, I saw my dad, I saw my mom. I was wondering what was going on. Even as a boy, I really didn't understand what had happened. And they started having conversations with doctor, and then the doctors keep saying, you have to get a specialist to actually work on this to be able to. There's a little piece of that broom still left in the eye, and that needs to be. We can remove that, but you need a specialist to be able to work on that eye for him to be able to use that eye again and all of that. So and then I know the doctor was like, well, the chance is very slim, right? But still, maybe it's something for them to do. But as it was, they already spent a lot of money at that point, put them in the hospital, having this kind of treatment and all like that. So, uh, one of these conversations I could heard was, we won't be able to pay for the surgery because I guess at some point, um, my parents spoke with a specialist and just like, they won't be able to actually cover that. And as you can imagine,
Mm.
Nigeria is not such like Canada where you have health insurance to be able to carry out all of these things. If there's anything wrong with you health wise, or if you need a special surgery, you pay for it in full. So they couldn't really foot the bill. So at some point they had to be like, okay, you know what, let's just take him home. If we are able to raise the money, fine. If not, um, we don't know what's gonna happen. So yeah, that
Mm.
happened, and we went home. But I went back to school after a week, and I just kind of, the reality wasn't done on me during the whole process while I was at home until I went back to school, and then I had kids start to question me, "What happened to your eye?" I was like, well, "What do you mean? What happened to my eye?" I have quite a few people start looking at me when I'm walking around. It's like, okay, so as it like well, as a boy, I really didn't understand all of that part, all of that thing. And then, you have some people start calling me one high boy because obviously it was paining me. So I wasn't opening my left eye like the way I open my right eye. So because of that, you know, kids start saying, "Oh, one high boy" and all of that, like that. So something like just poking you, teasing me, just making fun of me, kind of like that. And I started noticing that it was difficult for me to actually see the board, um, like the classroom blackboard from the back of.
So is that with that same eye or with both eyes actually?
It was with both eye at that point because it was more like, I mean, I think it was a transition phase from using two highs to now using one. So I think there was a bit of challenge in me being able to use even the right high that is okay compared to the left high that is not that is no longer working. And so it was a bit challenging. I was wondering, okay, what's that gonna be like? But at that point, I don't think I was really thinking about my high being the problem. I started thinking about me being the problem. I was thinking maybe there's something more I could do to actually just be normal like everyone. So yeah, I would actually move to the front of the class because my teacher actually moved me to the front of the class, and but it was challenging. They got me a pair of glasses to actually adjust at that point, but I wasn't comfortable with using glasses, right? So, well, my glasses actually got lost anyways. I'm not good at keeping all those things. So at that point, I just had to keep on going. I mean, I moved from that class. I was in primary two. You can imagine I still have like four classes more to finish primary school
Yeah.
and keep on moving that. Well, one thing that happened was that, well, my grades, of course, obviously was the first thing to be noticed. And then, I mean, a lot of people expected that, including my parents, including the teachers. So it was more like they don't know the best way to actually handle that, right? And Nigeria is not, I don't know how to put it, it's not such one that have accommodations like, okay, how to best support somebody with disability in class. Yeah.
Correct. Correct.
So there was nothing like that. You are just like every other student in the class anyways, irrespective of the challenge. But the only thing is that for them they just felt like, well, you won't be able to do well, kind of, right? So there was no much emphasis as to me being pushed to do more at that point. So the grades totally went bad and just keep on moving. I would just barely pass to move to the next class every now and then. And I think there was a bit of turning point because I started getting being teased more and more from like my classmates. And then at some point, I just wanted to be like, I'm gonna challenge these guys, even if there's nothing that I could do. Maybe I could actually just do better in class and see if that works. I mean, it started working bit by bit when I got to primary five. Like, I mean, that's when I moved from the bottom of the class to being the tenth. I mean, like my parents were they were really impressed, right? They were like, okay, that's you can do better, like my dad would always say. And by the time I got to the last year in primary school, like the final year, it was I was pretty much interested in things to be done in class. At that point, I think I've really forgotten myself, forgotten what's wrong with me, like whatever it is. Like my focus is really more about me achieving more and more grades because it was just a good feeling for me
Yeah.
every time
Yeah. Yeah.
at the end of the term they gave me my results and I'm like, yeah, I move up a little bit in class. So it was just something
Exciting.
exciting for me, right? So and then it was good also because I had my mom then with us and
Hmm.
she would be like, oh, you do, and then she would help me with some of my class notes, like if I needed some to finish up my notes, if I was lagging behind. No, she was just there. She would help me with all of that, and
Yeah.
but as soon as I got to primary six, yeah, I think primary six because I was also like I was like the normal age for every class, like
Correct.
so. I think in primary six, I was the early primary six. I was 9 years old, and that was when the whole thing with my parents started happening. And then, of course,
Yeah.
they got separated, and
So maybe just hold on a second there, and I know we would get into that, but I think just to maybe just hold on to this story, and I think as emotional as it is, I mean, even here speaking right now, I'm just hearing some even the full detail of what happened, and I think I like how even at an early age, and I'd really say that it's a strength that you might not necessarily recognize, but the fact that you turned and stop looking at the challenge that you have as a problem
mhm,
and looked
yeah,
beyond it,
mhm,
I think it's significant. And not everyone actually has that opportunity or, that sort of privilege, really.
mhm,
Even as adults, people struggle with that. But I think it's something now that obviously, because we've spoken before, but I think it's something that really started to show at the early age.
yeah,
And
mhm,
obviously, as people will learn, this is potentially what would probably even take you through. But I think that's very significant to sort of point out,
mhm,
the ability to stop looking at things and start looking at, some challenges really as potential. The way I like to think about it is, it's not a problem.
mhm,
How do I then surmount this challenge and be on the other side? And I think that's what you did, and you did absolutely very well as you kind of went through your primary school and excelled through even
mhm,
with, I'd say, really a life changing challenge on a life changing event that happened in your life. And really, so as we kind of go along, and I know that at this point you were 9 years old. Of course, the things started to happen at home. Take us through how those events. And I know this was really another significant event in your life.
mhm.
how those events really change the trajectory of things in your life.
Well, I feel like that's probably the hardest part, right? Because it was pretty much like I was on the path of getting better, doing well, and I was getting excited because I know, it's just the fact that when I come back at the end of the term, yeah, my parents is excited about it, my mom especially, and she's just always surprised at me getting better. And I can remember like the first term in primary six, I came up with fourth position. And honestly, even though everybody keeps saying you can still do better, I'm like, you don't understand. Like I was just so proud of myself at that point. Like I felt so like it was as if it was the biggest achievement you could ever get at that point for me. Because it was so like, oh, so I could actually do this. So it's also more like me exploring myself more and more to see what I can actually do and what I could not do. So as that was getting better, yeah, my parents were having those issues back at home every now and then. And I could remember a couple of times they'll have a lot of heated argument that they would just shut the door and then we'll just be outside, we'll be wondering what's going on, you understand? But we could hear them talking and all of that. It wasn't just audible as to what they were actually arguing about and that.
About, yeah.
Yeah, so and it, it all happened and then well, even at that point I never really understood what was happening. But then what was happening was because my stepmom was gonna come and it was causing issues between my mom and my dad because what happened was my dad was married before and then
Okay.
I had kids with that woman and now the woman wants to come back and with her kids and everything. I mean the kids were living with us anyways. Like they were pretty much older
Okay.
than me, like even older than my elder brother, which were both from our mom. So but I mean honestly, as a child, I was so surprised because I thought even those guys were also like my mom's children. So, but at
Correct.
that point, it was just like, okay, so there's a little more unfolding happening. And yeah, so eventually, I think my mom decided that, okay, she's not going to be here if that woman is going to come back. And she moved out. And so at that point, when she moved out, she took us with her and then I could remember we didn't even spend a day. Like it's probably as soon as my dad came back from work, he just drove down to my grandmother's place and took the three of us, like my elder brother, myself, and my sister, which is my younger sister, and then just took all of us back home. And I'm not even gonna lie, like I was just so perplexed as to I really didn't understand what was going on. Like I was just in my head thinking was with like because we always go to our grandmother's place. So when my mom moved out and then we moved together with her, we're at our grandmother's place. So well, it was still like me visiting my grandmother, which is exciting. And
Yeah.
my dad came and when he took us and then he took us home and it was just like. I need to talk to you guys. I need you people to understand. I'm like, understand what?
I mean, yeah, this was probably 10 years old, 9, 10 years old, correct?
Yeah. Like I was
Yeah.
like, I understand what and it was like, yeah, a lot of things is going to change and that I don't want you to go you will not be seeing your mom and I don't want you to go to your grandmother's place because it was my maternal grandmother. I don't want you to go there and that you will not even be going there because if I ever find out you guys are gonna be in trouble. So that point
Hmm.
it was a lot challenging because it shifted the focus away from what the way I was exploring myself in school and then now it just shifts my focus to everything I was going back at home. Now I have to focus more on what he's saying. And then one part that really got me so devastated was the part that during that time where my mom was away and he was restricting us from seeing my mom and then my stepmother is yet to move in. During that stage, it comes home every day and just keep beating us. And then I don't understand
Mm.
why. Like for most parts, we'll be wondering, like me and my elder brother, because at some point my sister was like, she's not gonna stay here. That my dad is too like it's like I don't understand. Like, are you even at that? And as a young lady, as a young girl, she wasn't even hiding it. Like, as a child, children probably don't hide things like that. So she was just
Yeah.
like, yeah, I want to see my mom and I'm not gonna stay here. Like she was really not having it. So eventually my dad decided like, okay, yeah, she's going to live with my mom because I mean he couldn't keep her anyways. But it was like even if any of us that are boys wants to live with our mom, that it's never gonna happen because he will not allow any of his boys live with their mom. So it was just like, no, it's not gonna happen. That I'm going to train you as a father. I don't want a woman
Mm-hmm.
to train you. Yeah. And so that wasn't comfortable anyways, but still yeah, for whatever reason it was going on in his head. But at the same time, it kind of just gave me the fact that he wasn't an absent father. No, it wasn't. But it was just so hard at that point with not understanding whatever that was going on with him. He comes
Mm-hmm.
back and then it's as if all the emotions have to be transferred to us. Like it was more like a transfer
Mm-hmm.
of aggression. So it's like I can feel comfortable or like for him to feel at ease, just like release the tension on us at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So it happens every now and then. It got to a point that even there was one of our neighbors that was like, well, today I feel like you guys have done this, have done that. You deserve another beating that's going to happen tonight. And in my head, I was like, no, that's not going to happen because I mean, we didn't do anything wrong. But it was like, well, you don't really have to do anything wrong, anyways. So,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
it was going to happen. But honestly, like, for a neighbor to actually notice to that point, and it happened that night as well. I mean, he just came back, and then there
Wow.
was one excuse that we could not even imagine, like, just came around, and then, he flogged us till we actually just go to bed and all. And
And at this time, it was just yourself and your brother. So I suppose your sister had
my sister
moved
had
with your
moved with
mom.
my mom, so it was just myself and my brother. So it was just
Okay.
Yeah, it was just
So
yeah.
yeah, maybe just holding on to that. So from what I gather is that obviously there was that sort of custody battle that was going on,
Mm-hmm.
and your
For
sister couldn't
sure.
stay obviously for obvious reasons. And he thought that he could just handle the guys alone,
Mm-hmm.
and so she went with your mom
Yeah.
somewhere else, and then it was just yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and of course your other brothers still in the house.
Yeah.
Now, maybe one question is in terms of you, because you talked about this transfer of aggression, was this just to you and your brother alone, or also to you and your stepbrothers?
Honestly, at this point, I think it was just myself and my stepbrother at that point. Because I think it was just the two of us at home that time. Okay, so the thing is those two those two
Yeah, your
step,
two other brothers.
okay,
Yeah,
those two stepbrothers,
correct.
those ones are way older. Because
Okay,
one of them is 10 years older than me. The other one is like 9 years older than me.
okay.
So the two of them are way older. So
Mm-hmm.
at that point, they don't really have to stay in the house. Because if I was 10, they were like 20, 19. So they
Mm-hmm.
don't have to, you understand. So my dad probably wouldn't be able to beat them or anything like that. So they were not really staying in the house actually. So just more like at that point they were probably staying with their friends and all. So just the two of us, myself and my brother, at that point when it was all
Okay.
happening. So we'll just be in the house like every day, and it was more difficult because like okay, we can't even see our mom. I mean, there's no place that you can actually just go. There's no place you can hide because on my dad's side is the extended family are far away. So it's like it was just a bit difficult as to like who you can actually talk to and who you can run to and all of that. So it wasn't gonna happen. And then as even as a child self, I felt like I probably don't know many places at that point where to go as to how to navigate my road at that point anyway. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it kept on happening until this our the stepmom actually moved in. Our stepmother
Okay.
moved in, and at first it was, I would say it was more like a deceit anyway. So at
Mm-hmm.
first it was like she was trying to be kind.
It was beautiful.
Oh yeah, she was trying to be kind and
Mm-hmm.
making us feel as if, oh yeah, yeah, we've gotten something better than our mom and all of that. So every now and
Mm-hmm.
then we always hear that. Like it's always a lot of comparison. And then what another part of that I hated so much at that point was when we will be called to come and answer some questions as to if she's better than our mom. I'm like, honestly, like it was
And who was asking these questions?
yeah, it's my stepmom, of course. And it
Wow.
also the fact that it also happened not just in my dad's absence, like sometimes it happened in the presence of my dad as well. So and then, I mean, it was very uncomfortable as to it's the answer is pretty obvious. you don't want to say your mom is better. Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's a problem already on its own. So
Yeah.
in my head, even as a child, I felt like honestly, I started becoming wise at that point.
So
Right?
you started becoming emotionally
Like
intelligent,
I started becoming
and
wise as to the you just have to start pretending as to the answers
mm,
and your words.
mm,
Like you just have to start saying things that these people want to hear, because that way you stay out of trouble. So that's what I was doing at that point as well. I'm like, just give me my food. I mean, you wanted to give me food and you're questioning me as to who is better between you and my mom. I mean, right now I'm starving. So I'll
it's
tell you whatever
interesting.
it is
Yeah,
that you want to hear for me to get my food.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah,
So,
and in actual fact, and a leopard really can never change its color. Really,
hmm
the patches would always show. After of course she came in, she was all nice and pretty and dandy.
hmm
You know, how did things then start to really, evolve and show its true color? Like, how did that all happen?
Well, it happened pretty fast because even the old sweet thing, it didn't really last for long, right? We are not even there. She just go ahead, tell her dad stuff that we did wrong, and I would be wondering when did we do that? Like,
Hmm.
so, like she probably be like, "Oh, I told them to actually look after this. They didn't look after that," and then you know it's more like he just manipulating our dad against us and then doing that every now and then. So, and our dad comes so strong, be like, you must listen to her. She's your mother and all of that. I'm like, okay, obviously she's not. There's no amount of
Yeah.
beating that can actually impart that into me, anyways. So yeah, that keeps happening, and then she goes tell her dad, oh, they are disrespecting. The whole thing always centered around, oh, they are disrespecting me and all of that. So you understand. So, and probably my dad doesn't want to hear that. So it will just descend on myself and my brother, anyways. And as we started growing, and then I entered high school, the most challenging part was, at some point I was probably I entered high school, and then maybe when I was like 13, and
Hmm.
at some point I started going to see my mom from school, or like
Okay.
either way around. I just go see her. I don't care.
Uh, and this was without your dad's knowledge,
Oh
of
no,
course.
no. I actually don't care if you find out at that point or not. So I will go
Hmm.
see my mom, and usually my mom will give me some money as well. So like a child, you keep your money, and then so this woman always go through her things from time to time.
Hmm.
When she goes through her things and she find money, she goes to my dad saying that she has been telling my dad that we've been stealing her money. That is the
Wow.
evidence. So
When in actual fact nothing was stolen.
So I mean, she keeps on doing that. She actually did that for so long, honestly, because she even did that till I was in senior high school. Like every now and then, she just
Wow.
go through things, or if I'm having all those normal contributions and missed others, she goes behind,
Hmm.
collect it, and then come home to come and tell my dad that the money I'm stealing. I even went ahead to go and do a lot of contributions, see the money, and
Hmm.
at some point it was really a lot, because it was like for everything that you try to do for yourself, this woman would make sure that it's not successful. So, and I think when I was in, I'll talk about the school parts later. I think when I was in high school, and maybe from maybe when I yeah well my first year of senior high school, like SS1, I was this woman came like, now we need to start hawking things for her. So
Hmm.
my brother, of course, that one immediately pulled out, was like, he's not gonna do it, and that at this point, that if he's forced, it's just gonna report to our mom, because at that point
Yeah.
we're like a little bit old, we're like teenagers, and then at that point, how teenagers can be sometimes. Because at some point, my elder brother would leave the house. There was one night that when they were trying to force him to do things, he actually left the house and he didn't come back home that night. So my dad was like wondering like, where did he go and all of that. So it was like, yeah, I told you, you can't be forcing me to do things. You see, I leave
Yeah.
this house, or you guys understand the fact that I'm not gonna do it.
He
So
was having none of it.
yeah, it wasn't at that point. It wasn't really having it, and then me on the other hand, I'm like, okay, somebody needs to put this family together. Well, I'm always
Mm.
having a sense of responsibility a little bit every now and then. So like for us to keep the tension a little bit low in the house, I actually volunteered that I will be doing that. I was like, don't worry,
Wow.
I'll do that for you. And
I think that's maybe just to hold on that point really, and I think it's really remarkable. And I think the first time you mentioned this to me, I was, I mean, I'm still in shock now. You know, haven't suffered and gone through this much, especially with this woman.
hmm
You still felt that sense of responsibility, of unity, and the need to just want to hold things together, and decided to even go ahead hawking. And for those who don't know, typically in some families in Nigeria that are typically financially challenged,
hmm
when they have maybe stores, they would have have their children hawk things, go to the main road and
hmm
just walk the streets and sell those things. And it is almost always in very harsh
yeah,
conditions.
of course.
The sun is mostly around 30 degrees or plus,
hmm
and it's insane. And you would walk so much that when you even see people hawking, it's just not it's a sad sight really.
hmm
And knowing that all this, you still went ahead to say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead to do this.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's I really don't even know how to explain it. It's just difficult to take in really.
yeah, and I'm probably gonna say why I did it as a teenager back then was my experience with how things have been in the home.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was really tension, like always in the house, and a little spark brings it to like heart of hand every now and then. Like it happens from time to time. Like the tension is always in the air like that. So and a little spark actually just ruin things. And then, like it troubles me to go to bed like every now and then with that. Go to school with that and come back. So at that point I was just like maybe to just keep things cool a little bit, not removing the tension in the hair, but just to maintain the status quo, then just keep things going at that point, like without having a serious fight or heated argument in the house. I was just like, okay, I'll do it. Because I was getting to that point, my brother was not having it, and it was obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't blame him at all because even though I volunteered, it wasn't because I was having it. So it's just because to like now because he has said that they are now focusing on him, and I really was afraid what they are gonna do to him. So at
Mm.
that point, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna step in because yeah, like it's a few things that we've all been we've gone through because time and time, like if we refuse to do things like that, and even if my stepmom tell my dad and my dad is not acting on time, she employed her children. I like I told you, they are like 10 years older than me, so she will employ her children, and then they start like beating us and all of that before my dad.
Oh, you were actually even beaten by your
Oh
older
yeah, of course
brothers, your
that
stepbrothers.
happens. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's more like so if they are like focusing on him at that point, I just wanted to like remove that at that time. I'm like, don't worry about it. So I'll do it. And
Mm.
honestly, it wasn't because I like it anyway, but I would just go around do it. And it really didn't change anything because that was when I started getting so pissed off with everything because, even though I started doing these things and I was like doing it like really good, it really didn't change things as time goes on again. Like it's still like the hatred was so much from this woman. Like it's so huge and you can literally just see it every now and then. Yeah. And then it keeps going on and on like that. And then that was the point where even though I really didn't tell my mom any of these things, I still go to her place. And I didn't tell my mom. My mom found out about these things when I had already stopped and I entered university. And she called me and she was like, "What kind of nonsense is this? Why wouldn't you tell me?"
Mm.
Because I told my brother not to tell him, not to tell her. Rather. And when she found out, she was really so pissed. Because if you know my mom can actually throw both my stepmom and my dad. She can actually throw them in a turmoil. Like she's very aggressive. Like if she goes down into our house, even my dad is always trying to make sure and prevent her from coming. Like If it
Coming
gets to
in.
a point where we are like, we're going to tell our mom everything that is happening, my dad is just gonna like, okay, go talk to the stepmom and be like, okay, I feel like you should back off a little bit at this stage. Yeah, because it's like when my mom comes around, he knows what can happen. But at the same time,
Yeah.
even though that feels like a safe haven that my mom can come around and make sure that things go back in order, it doesn't. It's not like it will go back in order. It increases the hatred more and
Mm.
more, and then it's just like if she comes around, and then what if it comes to the point where they all start getting like fighting, getting physical, and all of that? I mean, who knows who can get out? That's always my own point. I'm always like, who knows who can get out? Why not just do this thing and let everybody just have their own piece of cake at that point and just be at peace with one another, even though it's not like a literal peace, anyways. Yeah. So that was just what goes on in my mind. It's just more like maintaining things and keeping everybody like in that space where they are all are, so that there is no spark that causes like a physical fight. I know,
Mm-hmm.
like, and then also because with everything that has happened, it has also instilled fear in me. Like I'm always afraid of things getting out of hand. Like it has happened where, even when I was a child, it's also like if there's any little like argument and all of that, and because of the beating that my dad always do that time, I'm always wondering, like looking at him, feeling like I don't know what's gonna happen. Even sometimes I look at him, I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do wrong that's gonna lead to another kind of beating and all of that. So it
Mm.
kind of,
And so you were trying to avoid confrontation by any
yeah.
means necessary.
And it's like I just keep avoiding it. Like if it's gonna lead to any confrontation, I'm like, okay, I'm out of here. Like just
Mm.
out of here. And then the fact that I couldn't also leave the house at that point means that I needed to find a way to cope.
Mm.
And that's why I was putting all those things together as like, if they want to do this, I'm like, I'm gonna do it, irrespective of what she says. It's not like I get a word of compliment whenever I go around hawking and then bringing back money, because even when I did that and come on with, I mean, selling everything, bringing her money, she's excited, but I mean, she's the excitement is not towards me that go around, because she still goes go meet my dad. I mean, the quantity of things that you put on my head to go hawk, and you know how much the total is. But at the end of the day, even when I come back and I give you the money and you see everything is balanced, you still say I'm keeping some of your money. I mean, it's like you still accuse me of stealing some money, and I'm like, okay, that's really really brutal. But still,
Mm.
it doesn't freak me out to do anyways. I still would do it because I'm like, as long as that just allow me the peace. And then also another comfort that I always have at the back of my mind is like, okay, there's a time limit that I'm placing on this thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
at some point I'm gonna be out of this house. And then I think that was one of the motivations to actually just wanted to get an admission and go out of the house. Because it's like I already was looking like, okay, by 17 I should be able to get an admission and be out of the house. So,
Wow.
and I was looking forward to 17. I don't know, maybe a lot of people actually look forward to becoming 18 because they can go drinking or anything. I was actually looking forward to being
You just wanted to leave the house.
because I was gonna leave the house, and then I just wanted to be far away from every one of them. Like I felt like it also deprived me of the fact that me and my brother grew up together, and I felt like we really didn't get to know ourselves. Like I'm talking about my immediate elder brother from my mom.
Mm-hmm.
We really didn't get to like enjoy the benefit of childhood, even as siblings, to really like engage ourselves
Know each other.
and really know
Yeah.
ourselves. Because I felt like even when I left the house, and then maybe some years later when I finished university, and then I was going to travel to Canada, that was when I started thinking of the fact that I've not really spent time with him. Like even though we grew up together, we spent those years in the same house. It was like, no, we never really got that
Mm.
time. Yeah,
So you actually just lived together, but you never knew him.
yeah, not so much.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, you know, the story is it's really it's just so much. It's so much. I mean, for me, it's very emotional, and because I've heard some of. I mean, I'm and from a similar environment, and I've seen some of these things. We see it in Nigerian typical Nigerian movies, and you would think that that's what it is. It's just movies,
Mm-hmm.
but this is actually it happening, to someone, and it's really sad. Actually, it's really sad. But as we kind of still go through your story, and I think that's really what's encouraging for me, and that's you know almost seeing that light. Obviously you were looking to get out, but I think I also want you to maybe not skip too much. I know there were some events that actually happened during high school.
Yeah.
One of them, being the fact that you were bullied in school, and for obvious reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And you did mention that even as much as you were bullied in school, you still saw that bullying in school still better than what was done to you at home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, going through high school and going to school, it's I feel like there's more comfort going to school.
Mm,
And I say this with every comfort that I got at that time. So I got so much comfort spending time in school. If we're gonna have extra lessons, I'm down for it because it keeps me away from home as much as I needed. So like, I could I could stay with I could stay with guys in school, not necessarily because I could stay with all. I always get along with the kids in school, right? But with the fact that I'm just spending the time away from home, and then I'm gonna be spending more time away from home. So, well, in high
mm,
school, it all happened like everybody would just keep like, oh yeah, yeah, this boy with one eye, and
mm,
any little thing. But just I feel like it's just easier for people to just tease me, anyways. And I feel for the first like my junior high school, I would literally break down when somebody actually
mm,
teased me. I will weep like so hard, and because I'll be like, "Ah, I don't even know how to cope with this." And then for most part of it, when I was going to high school, that's another thing that's another thing about me that's very unique. So all my elder brothers, including my step brothers, they all went to a particular school, like high school, all of them,
mhm.
including my immediate elder brother. They like it's like a family tradition. Once you finish primary school, you just go to that school, and
Good. Yeah.
so when I finished, I was like, if the three of them have been going there, I don't like it. 'Cause does
Hmm.
it mean that it's too easy to enter? That was my point. I'm like, if it's so easy to enter, I don't want it. So I applied to a more competitive school and I didn't get in. As a matter of fact, I mean, you probably would know how Ogun State or some Nigerian states handles it before now. That if you apply to a school and you didn't have the cutoff mark to enter into that school, they just move you to another school where your cutoff mark goes. So they didn't even move
Yeah.
me to the school where my all my brothers have been going to, and where my immediate other brother is because he was like a year ahead of me in school. So
Hmm.
they moved me to a school that was very far away, and it was actually the worst school in our
Wow.
in that city. So and well, my parents, like my mom, actually did what she could to kind of change that school at that point. But when we went to the zonal level to go meet with the principal general, I was like, it would be better for him to spend a year first because right now there's nothing we can do. It was like, so I just told my mom, don't worry about it. I'll find my square root. So I went to that school and then it will happen like everything like the teasing and all. I feel like it would have happened in school anyways, and then it will keep happening, and then I would just break down, and I keep.
Mm,
It was just like a repeated cycle. It was a very very crazy cycle, and because it was, and also what I discovered about that is that you know if you give power to people, they will use it against you, and the more they
mhm,
see that that thing breaks me down, the more they do that. And I could remember when I was in my last year of junior high school, like that was the third year, and I was like, I think there was a point where one of them came, and I was like, I feel you are very stupid for that statement. And all the class actually looked in my direction. I was like, okay, this is different. So and that was me actually now confronting whosoever come up with that. And I
mm,
was like, well, what you said doesn't actually. If you listen to yourself, do you think it makes sense?
mm,
So I went from there to when we had our junior WAEC, like our unified exam back then. We so I When we got to SS1 and the result came out, so there was a regional award that was out, and then I when they that time they don't even tell us about results. If you know how public school can be sometimes, all of it
Yeah.
just kind of just go to senior high school. And even if the result is ready self, you probably don't know because it's most likely your parents will pick it up and all like that. So and they came to the class and they were like, okay, there's an award and the award is going to me. And the award is not from school because the award is for those that finish like the best from each school at that point. So I was like, oh, so I was
Mm.
the best. It was very hilarious because it was very exciting. It was, and then, and also I felt like I was expecting it because of the effort I've been putting into things at that point, right? And
Yeah.
we went all the way, we went all the way to that to the regional the zonal headquarters at that point for high schools, and then we were all awarded from each school in that zone, like the best from each school in that zone. We got the award, and then when I came back to school, like there was still another celebration within the school as well, like and all of that. So and I could remember one of those times my that's where the statements, even the bullying school is better than those one at home came from. Because when we got back to school and they were celebrating me, and then they brought me out on the assembly ground, like in front of everyone and all, and your parents will be so proud of you and all that. And at that point, that was because I never told anyone that I'm living with my stepmom, anyways.
Mm.
So I I was sad actually because I knew what the story was gonna be, and I loved the whole thing that was happening in school better than what was gonna happen at home. Because I know I can't even mention it at home. Because the last time I mentioned something close to it, as to like my result was very good, and then I just excitedly say it at home. I know the kind of reaction I got, so I wasn't gonna say it. Even to start with, I'm not gonna even say it. So it's just like, even though a lot of good things were happening to me in school, it is not something that I could mention at home because, and I feel like that also got me more sad because I felt like I was doing
Mm.
well in school, but I had nobody at home to,
You couldn't share it with anyone. Yeah.
and then there was nobody that could celebrate me as well. And that really went on even till I finished university. Like, there's nothing I achieved. It's like, I better just enjoy the fact that I achieved it on my own.
Mm.
That's all. And that's all I get from it. So I feel like that also from that point I started having a subconscious wall built around me as to nobody could reach on the inner core of me, like as to who I really am. Nobody can actually reach to that. The best that people can see is what I make them see. And I actually
Uh,
and I
I just wanted to mention. Sorry for cutting you short there, but I think it just marvels me, and I think you know the ability and the fact that you were able to push yourself.
hmm
It's. I mean, I don't know how many people can do this because a lot of people thrive when there's support. They have a good support system. They get encouraging words, and hear these things. Tell your kids, positive words, and that helps them even perform even better. But in your case, you were doing well. You couldn't share this with anyone.
hmm
And on top of that, the type of abuse that you faced, but you still were able to put all that in a bucket somewhere
yeah,
and still able to
exactly.
thrive.
hmm
It's just I don't even have words for it, but
hmm
I think that was, I mean, and that is, I think, is one of the great gifts that you have.
And I feel like even though it sounds very, very easy when I talk about it, it wasn't easy because I felt like I lead such a life of sadness. I'm not gonna lie. I just come home and then I just cry myself to sleep with everything.
Hmm.
And then it's like the following day, oof, we pick ourselves up again and then just continue.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like
Well,
just it's like a compartment as to,
it is.
yeah,
It
put it
is.
in a compartment and I never reach that compartment. For everything that happened, I just keep it there. I just continued keeping it there. I just continued keeping it there. And that was why it was hard for me even to share that story on LinkedIn, because
Mm,
I was like, it's like a compartment that I'm now going back to, and it's so hard to actually just reach down there. And I felt like last year, I'm gonna go back to the high school to finish, but last year I was talking about this thing, and it felt so fresh, as if it happened like 3 days ago.
mm.
I was like, I couldn't even imagine myself that I actually went through that, because it felt like for
It was somebody else that it happened
yeah,
to.
exactly, because as it was happening, I just had to keep it where it belongs, and then
Mm,
just continue with whatever it is that I want to do. So it was so fresh that I couldn't even unburden it completely. I was like, you know what,
mm,
we still have to return this thing back to where it belongs, and then um because it was like it was too much. Yeah, so
mm,
in high school, as we're going through all of that, I was having a whole lot of projects. Like, people were just so motivated when I talked to them. Like, my classmates. Oh, let's do this. They were very, very interested in it. Let's have a topic that we can be talking about on the assembly ground. They are so very much interested about it, and it will be like, okay. So when we got to high school, well, I eventually become the senior prefect, anyways, and
hmm.
I was,
So when you say senior prefect, is that like the head boy, or
yeah,
what is
yeah,
that like?
yeah. I was the head boy, and
Oh, okay.
so, and that was like the main leadership stuff for students back then.
Yeah. So so basically, I mean, for those who don't know, the way it works in Nigeria is as you kind of progress through, junior high to senior high. At the point of senior high, really, you get the best students in most cases are
Yeah.
selected as the leadership, and so almost in most cases, the very best of the best
Mm-hmm.
is made the head boy and the head girl respectively.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a title that was sort of bestowed on you for obvious reasons
Yeah.
as someone that was excelling, in the midst of all the odds,
Mm-hmm.
really.
Yeah.
And I think, obviously you started to show signs already at the very early stage. And I think that was definitely exceptional on your part. I know we still want to go back to, just kind of really wrap up on, some of the stories in the high school. But I think that there was still one very important, remarkable event that happened. And, might maybe just add to what you wanted to say. And you did mention that, your dad was present,
Mm-hmm.
although arguably, sometimes showing it in a very wrong way.
Yeah.
But I think there was also, one event that happened that really also was argues a landmark event, in the times of these tribulations with your stepmom.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted you to kind of walk us through that.
Well, I feel honestly, it's that part is, it has always been one of the most difficult times to talk about because, as you can imagine, I already skipped it, and